Hola travelers, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're planning a driving trip in Spain, you probably brushed up on some of the basics. We looked at some of the basics of driving in Spain in the last video that I put out, but today we're going to look at some more essential rules that you'll need to know before you drive in this country. For example, what you will need to know if you are traveling with furry friends here in Spain, how to keep your pets safe in the car, and also some more information about speed cameras here in Spain. So hopefully these new tips will make your driving experience here in Spain smooth, and most importantly, you'll avoid some important fines. So let's go. And by the way, I'll try to clear up using roundabouts here in Spain at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Now let's talk about the documentation that you need in your car should you be pulled over by the police here in Spain. As you would expect, documentation needs to be kept in the glove box where you've got easy access to it should you need to get it out and show it to a police officer. In my particular case, because this car belongs to the bank, all of the documentation is in this nice little folder here. Now here in Spain, there are 3 documents which are fundamental, and you must have these documents in the car at all times. First one is your driver's license, which I have here. You must have your driver's license, and it must coincide with your identity document. So if you're traveling with your passport or another type of identity document, the details must match your driver's license. Fundamental. Also fundamental is this document here, Permiso de Circulación. Basically, this is the document that gives you permission to drive this vehicle here in Spain. So again, fundamental. And the third document that you need is this one here, which is called the Ficha Técnica, or the technical document, which has all of the details of your car when you need to go over the pits, do the MOT or the ITV in this country. Now, a few years ago here in Spain, you would have needed a document to prove that you have insurance, but you don't need that anymore. However, if you're traveling from a foreign country down here in Spain with your vehicle, I would recommend you carry proof of insurance because they might ask you for it. It happened to me in Portugal. Here in Spain, you don't need that document, but in Portugal, if you're driving a foreign car, you do, and I ended up copping a €40 fine for not having that document. So you live and you learn. And some other things that I would recommend you carry in your glove box at all times here in Spain. For example, the fluorescent safety jacket, just in case you break down on the side of the road, a spare pair of glasses if you wear glasses or contact lenses, and also this device here, which, as I mentioned in a previous video, as of 2026 will become obligatory in all cars here in Spain, the V16 beacon. So if you haven't got one of these already and you're planning a trip to Spain as of 2026, I recommend you buy one as soon as possible. Now, the spare pair of glasses is an interesting one. Somebody in the comment section on a previous video said that you need to have a pair of these by law. That is not the case. It is recommended that you carry a spare pair of glasses because if you haven't got one and you need glasses, you might not be able to drive. So it's a recommendation, but apparently it's not obligatory to have a spare pair of glasses or contact lenses in the glove box at all times. So keep that in mind. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the use of lights. When do you need to turn your lights on here in Spain? Well, the law states that from sunset to sunrise, you must have your lights on. Also, very importantly, and thanks to the person that pointed this out in the comment section on the last video, is that when you are driving in a tunnel, you must turn your lights on. Now, the good news, if you have a modern car, that most likely you just put your lights onto the auto setting and away you go. You don't have to worry about anything else. But if your car is older and you don't have an auto setting, which is the case of an old car that I have, then you have to work the lights manually. And remember, most importantly, sunset to sunrise, lights must be on, and also going through tunnels, you will need to turn your lights on. Otherwise, you could cop a fine. The use of fog lights, a little bit more complicated here in Spain, when to turn your fog lights on or off. You only need to have one fog light by law, that is a rear fog light, but you can only turn that fog light on if the weather conditions are severe. For example, severe fog, severe rain where visibility is affected, and a severe snowstorm where visibility is also affected. And you must turn your rear fog light off as soon as you get out of those difficult driving conditions, because it could become a hazard for the person driving behind you, the brightness of that rear fog light. And believe me, the police here are very, very quick to pick people up that drive with that rear fog light on when they shouldn't be doing so. And also, importantly, the use of high beams to warn people. Perhaps there's a police control up ahead and you put your high beams on to warn people, watch out, because they can get you on that too. Now, another thing I want to talk about when it comes to driving here in Spain, and it's very, very important if you want to avoid silly fines, and it's basically what you can and can't wear when you're driving a vehicle here. And it's important because I know that in the summer months here, it gets very hot and people tend to go to the beach. They like to wear their bathers. They like to hop in their cars with maybe flip-flops and maybe no shirt. Well, those two things are not allowed here. You must wear a shirt, and also you cannot wear flip-flops on your feet. You have to have adequate footwear. In fact, you have to have adequate clothing, and that is what the law states. What is adequate clothing, I hear you asking? Well, apart from the two things that I just mentioned, that you need to have a shirt on and you need to have proper footwear, basically it's up to the officer that stops you what they determine to be adequate clothing. So keep that in mind too. But important, as I said, no flip-flops, no bare feet, and also you need to have a shirt on. So if you like your body, you like to get around with your kit off, don't do that here in Spain, because as I said, you will get fined if an officer spots you shirtless and with no shoes, and it could ruin your holiday, right? Now, another important thing that we need to talk about is winter driving conditions. Now, believe it or not, Spain does have quite severe winters, especially in the north of the country, but there are mountain passes all over the country where it could snow. And if you don't have the proper equipment in your car, for example, snow chains for your tires, the police will not let you proceed with your journey. They'll stop you there until the conditions get better or the snow on the roads is cleared. So a good idea to have the proper winter equipment in your car if traveling here during those winter months, because as I said, it can get freezing cold and snow in a lot of parts of the country. Now, another important piece of advice when driving here in Spain is to be on the lookout for motorbikes and scooters at all times when you are driving, especially in the big cities, Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, and also in the south of the country, in Andalusia, for example, lots of people getting around on scooters and motorbikes. So be careful. Always check your mirrors for blind spots before you change lanes, because motorcycles and scooters here in Spain often weave in and out of the traffic, and you never know when you're going to have one come up beside you. So as I said, check those mirrors frequently and be on the lookout constantly for this type of vehicle. Now, another important rule that I want to point out when it comes to parking here in Spain, and you could avoid a fine if you park correctly, and thanks to the person that pointed this out in the comment section on the last video. Basically, what happens is that when you park on a street like this, which has one lane going up and one lane going down, you have to park in the direction of the traffic. So for example, here I'm on the right side of the road, I'm parked, I need to be facing in that direction. Now we'll go and see if other cars are doing the same thing, or if there are cars parked illegally on this side of the road. Let's go and check it out. So the first thing that we can see is that we have car number 1 parked correctly, car number 2 parked incorrectly, car number 3 parked incorrectly also, car number 4 is parked okay, car number 5 parked okay as well, car number 6 too, but car number 7 is parked incorrectly. Why is this car here, this white car, parked incorrectly? Because it has broken the law to get into that position, and this car here could be fined by the local police if they decided to do so. So to avoid fines here in Spain when parking, make sure that you are parking in the correct direction on the side of the road. I would recommend that. Now, something else that you need to be aware of when you are driving here in Spain is that eating and drinking when you're behind the wheel is not allowed. Eating and drinking is considered to be a distraction here in Spain, and the police will fine you if they see you sipping from your can of Coke or your coffee or munching on your sandwich when you are driving. The fines can be up to 200 euros, so remember to save your snacks for when you are parked safely. Now, if you are like me and you travel a lot with your furry friend, your dog or your cat, you might want to know what the rules are here in Spain when it comes to transporting them in your vehicle. That's what we're going to look at now. Now, as you would expect, the rules are quite clear when it comes to traveling with pets in your vehicle here in Spain. And if you break the rules, you can end up with a fairly hefty fine, and that's what you want to try to avoid. Pets need to be secured in the vehicle at all times. They can't be loose, they can't be running around, they can't be sitting on the passenger's lap in the front seat. You will get a fine for sure. Now, what they recommend you do is obviously use a carrier, a pet carrier, and place your dog behind the driver in that space there, if we can see it here. So ideally your pet should be in the carrier in this space here. Now, another way to transport your pet is in the boot or the trunk of the car here, in the hatchback area of this particular vehicle, and they can be tied up. If you have a big dog, you might want to carry your dog in this part of the vehicle, but you will need to have a separator, a physical barrier here, so that the dog can't access other parts of the car. So if you're going to carry your dog in this part of the car, make sure you have that physical barrier there to stop the dog jumping over and getting into the other part of the car. And the final way that you can carry your dogs in the vehicle here in Spain is by purchasing one of these straps, which goes onto the dog's harness here. Dog's on the back seat, and this goes into the seat belt socket here. Make sure that it is firmly attached there, and the dog is all secured. She won't be able to jump into the front to annoy the driver. She won't be able to jump into the front to annoy the passenger, and you will be able to have a safe journey with your dog tied up with this strap. So those are the ways that you can travel legally with your pets in the car here in Spain. Now, the part that a lot of you have been waiting for. It's time to tackle a couple of roundabouts here in Spain. A very contentious issue is the topic of roundabouts here. In fact, nobody seems to know how to use roundabouts correctly, neither locals nor foreigners when they come to this country. On the last video, I tackled a roundabout. Lots of people in the comment section said, "Stuart, you've got no idea. That is not how you drive around a roundabout here. Drive around a roundabout." But anyway, I've looked into it, and I think this is the rule when it comes to roundabouts here in Spain. So let's go and tackle a couple of them. So why are roundabouts here in Spain so complicated for so many people? Well, I think one of the main reasons is that when you have multi-laned roundabouts, which is what we have in front of us now, things can get confusing and people try to exit the roundabout from the wrong lane. But the rules are quite clear. So as I said, the first roundabout here, entering the roundabout in the outside lane, I'm going to exit at the first point here, indicating, and off I go. So fairly simple there, what we need to do if you're going to take the first exit in a roundabout here. Now, another roundabout coming up, a single lane roundabout. So fairly simple. I'm going to go all the way around this roundabout, looking out for cyclists which have priority, indicating that my intention is to go all the way around. And a lot of people don't indicate when they use roundabouts here, and that is one of the problems. And apparently, from what I've read, it's not mandatory. Also indicating to exit, and coming up to that same roundabout that I went through just a moment ago, I'm going to turn right at this roundabout here. So indicating, giving way to the left, off the roundabout I go. Now here, as you can see, we have a two-lane road. We have a roundabout at the end of this road. I'm going to try to enter the roundabout in the right-hand lane if I can. There's some cars blocking the right-hand lane, so I'm going to have to go into the left-hand lane here in just a moment, which is what I will do. Now, technically, you should enter a roundabout at all times from the right-hand lane. However, if the right-hand lane is blocked, you can enter from the left-hand lane, and also in cities, you can enter from the left-hand lane, because the rule says that when driving on roundabouts in cities here in Spain, you can choose the lane of the roundabout that best suits your destination. Now, I'm going to go around here and turn off at the second exit, so staying in this lane here, indicating. But you can see this car here, what this car in front of me, this van has just done, is illegal, and that is why there are lots of accidents here in Spain, because that car in front of me exited the roundabout from the inside lane, and that is what the law states that you cannot do. Now here, we've got cars blocking the right-hand lane, impossible to be in that. So I'm going to go into the roundabout here. I'm going to again go into the roundabout from the outside lane or the right-hand lane. But here, because I want to go all the way around, I'm going to go into one of the center lanes and go all the way around the roundabout here in this lane. And then when I want to get into the lane to exit the roundabout, again, same thing, I have to go into this right lane here, indicating leave the roundabout from the right-hand lane. That is the most important rule, that you always leave a roundabout from the outside lane, okay? Now, it's a little bit different when you're driving in a country situation. If you're driving on country roads and you come to a roundabout, the law states that you need to be in the outside lane at all times. But driving in cities, as I said, you can take the lane which best suits your destination. Now, another thing we need to talk about is hard shoulders here in Spain on the side of roads, on the side of motorways like we have here. And the first thing I'm going to say is that it is strictly prohibited to stop on a hard shoulder here in Spain unless your vehicle has broken down. So if you want to stop because you want to make a phone call, if somebody wants to go to the toilet, for any other reason other than a serious breakdown or a justified reason, you cannot stop on the hard shoulder. If you do have to stop the vehicle for any other reason, you have to continue until you can exit the motorway. Those are the laws. So as I said, unless the reason is justified, like for example, you have an accident or your car completely breaks down, you cannot stop on the hard shoulder here. And if you run out of petrol, that's also considered to not be a valid excuse and you'll get a fine. Now, another thing I want to talk about is speed cameras. You can see here that we have one coming up. We have been warned that there is a speed camera. This is what they call a radar fijo, like a fixed speed camera. It's only in one spot. But now in some parts of the country, especially in some of the coastal areas, they have what's known as radar de tramo, which in English I think we would call a section radar. So they check your speed at one point, and then when you get to another point, depending on how long it has taken you to get there, they will know if you have been speeding or not. Radar de tramo, which, as I said, are popping up around the country now, so watch out for those. So there we go, some more essential rules that you'll need to know before driving here in Spain, and hopefully they'll save you some money in fines, they'll save you some stressful moments, and also some frustration when driving on the roads in this country. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. I would love to hear your opinions and comments on some of the things that I have mentioned today, so leave them in that section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, and if you found any of the information useful today, please hit the subscribe button as well. Become a subscriber of this channel. I would really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Safe driving and hasta luego from Spain.